The air in courtroom for me smelled like stale coffee and expensive cologne, a scent that always seemed to favor the man sitting across from me. I was just a retired librarian in a faded cardigan, clutching a worn leather purse like it was a shield. To my right sat Julian, the mayor's son, leaning back with a smirk that said he owned the oxygen in the room. He'd spent the morning laughing with his high-priced lawyers, treating the vehicular assault of my grandson like a minor clerical error. Every time I looked at him, he'd mouth the same 3 words: "Call my dad." He thought the name on the city hall door was a skeleton key for every lock in the state. Judge Miller didn't help. He kept checking his gold watch, sighing every time I tried to speak, as if my grief was an inconvenience to his lunch plans. He looked at me not as a grieving grandmother, but as a nuisance. When I tried to describe the night of the accident, the screech of tires, the smell of burnt rubber, and Julian's face as he climbed out of that red sports car, the judge slammed his gavel. He told me my testimony was anecdotal and emotionally charged. He looked Julian's way with a nod, almost an apology for making him endure the presence of someone like me. Julian just grinned, leaned into the microphone, and demanded the charges be dropped immediately. "Do you know who my father is?" he sneered, loud enough for the gallery to hear. "Just make the call, Judge. End this circus." The room went silent. I felt small. I felt invisible. I looked at the photos of my grandson in his hospital bed, tubes everywhere, and I felt the weight of a system designed to protect the predators and silence the prey. But then, I remembered the one thing they all overlooked. I stood up, ignoring the bailiff's hand on my shoulder. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply pulled a small, cracked burner phone from my purse, the one Julian had tossed into the bushes that night, thinking it was destroyed. I told the judge there was one number saved in the recent calls, labeled Dad, and a voicemail left 60 seconds after the crash. The judge's smirk vanished. He took the phone, his hand trembling slightly, and patched the audio through the courtroom speakers. We didn't hear the mayor's voice. We heard Julian sobbing, admitting he was high, admitting he saw the boy, and then we heard the mayor's voice, cold, calculating, telling his son to wipe the prints and walk away because he had the judge in his pocket. The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Miller's face turned a ghostly, translucent white. He looked at the gallery, at the reporters, and then at Julian, who was suddenly very small in his expensive suit. The judge didn't drop the charges. Instead, he picked up the desk phone, his voice cracking as he made one single call to the state attorney's office to self-report. As the handcuffs clicked around Julian's wrists, the boy who had spent all morning mocking me finally burst into tears, realizing the name he'd used as a shield had just become his cage. I walked out of that courtroom into the bright afternoon sun, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. The man who spent his life telling me to call his father spent the rest of the afternoon calling for a lawyer who wouldn't pick up.